Are you tired of hearing yourself say, don't hit your brother, no throwing, don't pull the dog's tail? The options are endless. And we repeat the same things over and over again, getting possibly only temporary results, if any results at all. Now, this is a definition of insanity. We as parents are tasked with raising our adorable children into adulthood, all while keeping them in one piece, as well as keeping our sanity intact at the same time. As you know, this can be exhausting. For those of us with kids with autism or behavioral issues, this can be especially challenging. So we'll need to rework how we handle these situations. Let's find out how. A big complaint I hear from parents is that their kids are always getting into something or doing something that they shouldn't do, and they end up yelling at their kids all day, or at least it feels that way. Does that feel familiar? You hear yourself over and over again saying, don't do X, Y, or Z, or you heard what I said, no, and then fill in the blank. But this often doesn't work, as you can tell by your frustration level. Now, what we need to realize is that young kids and kids on the autism spectrum don't always understand how not to do something. So if we say no hitting, for example, we assume as parents that they know what no hitting looks like, what the opposite of no hitting is. Now, to be technical, when we say no hitting, we're expecting them keeping their hands to themselves or down by their sides, but that can be a big assumption. What you want to do is give an active, behavior-specific direction, such as, so instead of saying no hitting, say keep your hands down. So they have to think about it and keep their hands down. Let's say for don't throw your blocks, instead say, here, play with your blocks, or build something specific with your block. Give your child something active to do in place of the behavior you don't want them to do. There are also kids who will purposely try to get your attention by doing something they shouldn't. And so when we say something like no hitting, don't kick, don't play with daddy's tools, we have just highlighted for them what gets our attention. We've made it very simple. So with a no hitting, don't kick, don't play with daddy's tools, we've just said hitting, kicking, playing with daddy's tools are what's going to bring me to you. Instead, use those active behavior-specific directions. So again, for no hitting, keep your hands down. For don't kick, you could either say keep your feet on the floor, keep your feet still, sit nicely. It'll just depend whether they're standing or seated, what the situation is. So it's just, again, redirecting that to something that they can do. For don't play with daddy's tools, you could redirect them to another activity, such as you could go over and start playing with some of the toys. Oh, look what I'm making. You know, here, or like, here, come help me get a book, find a book that we can read. So you've just redirected what they're doing, not saying don't touch that, but hey, look over here, let's do this, and just bringing them over without bringing a lot of negative attention to what they shouldn't be doing. And sometimes kids will purposely do something they shouldn't to get your attention. You know, when we do something negative, like our kids on the spectrum in particular, they don't know always how to initiate or to get, hey mommy, come here, look what I'm doing. They'll just know that mommy's busy on her phone, but I want her with me. Let me start banging on something. Let me start doing something. Let me start jumping up and down on the couch, because I know every time that brings her to me. And that's how we communicate how we want, or I communicate, but that's how we get her attention. So when we reinforce that every time, so if we instead redirect to something else, they'll see there are other ways to get mommy's attention. For those kids that are negatively trying to get your attention, it's harder for them to quickly think of the opposite when you give an active behavior-specific direction, such as, you know, to say, keep your feet on the floor. It's hard for them to come up quickly with, well, what's the opposite of keeping my feet on the floor? Or, you know, help me find a book. Like, okay, I can't, again, you're giving them the active direction. It's just not so quick for them to try and change it to the opposite. Now I have to say, this isn't easy to change how we speak. We've been communicating this way for a long time. And of course, we're human and words just come out of our mouths sometimes faster than we can control them. And I have to say, I've been guilty of this because you're like, no, or don't, like you're quick to get on it. And yeah, because that's just how we've been wired and it only makes sense. But that's why a little homework is required. So take some time, especially at the end of your day, to think about all the things that you typically said no or don't to, and then try and come up with some behavior-specific directions that you could give instead. For example, if you're always telling your child to, like let's say, don't pick your nose, which is a really gross thing, you could say, go get a tissue, use a tissue, keep your hands down. It depends. Now, if they have a runny nose, of course they need a tissue. But some of our kids also, it is a behavior, a rather unpleasant one, but they always have the finger up their nose. So it's just a matter of redirecting that down. Also, maybe, let's say you're walking down the street or you're in a store and you have a child who likes to just walk along and touch the wall as they go, which also is not very sanitary. So something you could say there is, instead of saying don't touch or don't do that, keep your hands down, put your hands in your pockets. If it's a matter of, just having them closer to you, say, here, come walk next to me. So they're a little further away from the wall. So again, you want to do something that provides a behavior that interferes with them being able to do the other behavior. So while their hands in their pockets, they can't be touching the wall. If they're walking closer over to you, which is further from the wall, they clearly can't touch the wall. And how about one more? No jumping on the couch. So there you could either say, sit nicely, because if they're supposed to be sitting, that's the plan, watching TV or doing something and they're jumping, sit nicely. Or if they're just running around the room and they decide to just use the couch like a trampoline, like anything else, keep your feet on the floor. And again, so it's an active direction. They won't know immediately how not to keep their feet on the floor. Do you get the idea? Now, you may have to guide their hands down or show them what sitting nicely looks like. You may have to practice these behaviors that you want to see with them. Now, once you have it, it will get easier and easier and they will respond faster each time. All right, so to recap, you're going to want to, 1, avoid using the words no and don't. And stop could be thrown in there too, because that's really similar. 2, you want to think of replacement, active, behavior-specific directions to all the things you're saying no and don't to. 3, you need to take time to do this. This is not going to come right off the top of your head. And so you need to kind of sit, reflect, think about all the times what you're saying no and don't to, and think about what else you can say. This is not easy. And again, we have all been trained to quickly respond like this, so it'll take some time. And of course, practice. The more you practice it, the easier it gets. You actually can undo it. And I remember when I first went into the field of behavior analysis that I had to undo the no's and the don'ts. Now, also to say that there is a place for no and don't. It's not like your child will never hear no and don't. They're going to hear it and they're going to need to hear it. But especially when they're younger, I purposely saved those for very extreme situations. For example, so your child darts out into the street and their cars, but fortunately, thank God, they're okay. You grab them, you pull them in. And you're like, and what I will do, I'll get nose to nose and be really loud, be like, you don't run out in the street. And I'm going to be very expressive and yell the no or the don't. So they know, like, yeah, you got my attention, but it's really not good attention. And I kind of want to scare them because I don't want them to do that again, okay? I mean, that's a major behavior. And you want to save your no's and your don'ts for those more extreme things. Now, again, over time, as they're just better at following directions and and they know what they should be doing in most situations. They're going to hear no, they're going to hear don't, but we don't want to overuse it in more simple situations. So give it a try and let me know how it works out. And if you get stuck trying to come up with an active behavior-specific direction, let me know by putting it in the comment section below. It does take time and it does take a practice. It is a skill that we need to build. But you'll see how it can improve how you interact with your child and how they respond to you. Now, pairing this strategy with increasing daily positive reinforcement can make all the difference. If interested in learning more, please check out the video on this screen. Oh, by the way, if you like this video, please like and subscribe. And I always appreciate comments, so please leave them in the comment section below. Thanks so much, and I'll see you next time.